analyze its present and future. Chapter 9 is a detailed analysis of the religious elements of the January 6th insurrection that reveals how white Christian nationalism was an integrating force for Trump's coup attempt. Chapter 10 explores the myths and relics that have developed in MAGA Nation since the insurrection. I argue that January 6th was the first battle in MAGA Nation's war on American democracy. Chapter 11 forecasts what MAGA Nation and white Christian nationalism may look like long after Trump has left the scene. Here I focus on the large-scale migration of Christian supremacists to the American Redoubt and their dreams of a theocratic state separate from the American Republic. No definitive answers as to how we arrived at this political moment exist. There are many ways to tell the story and to investigate the historical events leading up to the insurrection. There are also too many figures and historical markers to cover in depth. Some scholars have centered on figures such as Billy Graham and Richard Nixon. Others have taken a longer view by going back to the 19th century to illuminate the present. And others have zeroed in on gender, sex, and immigration in order to understand the history of white conservative Christianity in the United States. I am indebted to the scholars and journalists who have followed these routes, and this book draws on their insight at many points. I am also indebted to the many black authors who have articulated why it is time to capitalize white, as I have done throughout this book. While black has been capitalized for some time, white has not been. Many style guides recommend capitalizing the former, but not the latter. In my view, it is important to capitalize white, to draw attention to it as a racial category that demands observation and investigation. For too long, whiteness has been invisible, especially to white people. As Nell Irvin Painter says, we should capitalize white to situate whiteness within the American ideology of race, within which black but not white has been hypervisible as a group identity. By capitalizing white, we call attention to the specific racial category that has a particular history in the United States and beyond. In order to focus this work, I decided to tell the story of the rise of white Christian nationalism since the 1960s, when various cultural and political movements transformed the United States and led to the extension of various civil rights and forms of cultural representation to religious, racial, sex, gender, and ethnic minorities. This set off a counter-revolution that resulted in, among other things, religious support for the Trump presidency and the central role of Christian nationalism at the January 6th insurrection. Tracing this path makes it possible to see how the myth of the white Christian nation provided the basis for our polarized public square, what amounts to an American cult civil war, and the worst attack on the Capitol in 2 centuries. Chapter 1. Would I have been there? I spent the first sunlit hours of January 6, 2021 bobbing in the Pacific Ocean. Having awakened at dawn and gone surfing, I was surprised that no other surfers were in sight that morning. It was a rare but welcome phenomenon. With all that room to think, my thoughts expanded into the endless blue of the ocean around me. 2 surprising Democratic victories in Georgia's Senate runoff elections the day before had made me jubilant. As the sun rose above Northern California, I thought of Raphael Warnock, a black minister, and John Ossoff, a Jewish man in his early 30s, representing the Peach State in the Senate. The Democrats would now have control, by the slimmest of margins, of the White House and both houses of Congress. My face was numb from the 40-degree air and 50-degree water, but my body was glowing with anticipation. Maybe we are headed for better days, I thought, sitting on my board, looking at the horizon and tracing the long continuous arc of the Monterey Bay from Santa Cruz to Seaside. After 4 years of living under a contracted and sinister vision of America, I was ready for the country to unfurl itself from the myopia of the previous administration and move forward once again. As a scholar who teaches courses on the racism, misogyny, xenophobia, and homophobia that mark American history, I should have known better. I did know better. I have told my students a million times, even if the arc of the universe bends towards justice, it's not a straight line. It's a zigzag or a curve that doubles back on itself, one full of loops and hairpin turns. Nonetheless, it was hard not to feel relieved or even buoyant. Before going home, I took a selfie with the ocean in the background. In the frame, the sun is soft and golden. My hair is still wet, and I'm smiling calmly. When I look at that photograph now, I'm amazed.